How do you ask the pricing question?
Man, yeah, golden. There's a couple different ways. We don't ever say what we can offer. A lot of people, especially in texting and in cold calling, a lot of people are like, okay, I just want to qualify these leads. I don't want to talk to people that aren't interested in taking a discounted price. And so I'm going to tell them a range that I can offer and see if that's within their realm of possibility, right? So they'll say, hey, we're offering anywhere between $4,000 and $6,000 an acre for a 10-acre tract here. But I think the challenge with that is that you immediately put yourself at a huge disadvantage of being essentially hung up on, because now the lead is thinking, okay, that's what you can offer in my land. But the truth is, especially on that qualification call, you don't really know. Like, your agents, your cold callers are not going to know. They're not comping. They're not looking at every comp. It's impractical to to create like a whole set of comps to understand exactly what you can pay for a property before that initial phone call. So what we try to do is we do three methods of trying to get the price out of them. The first is we will say, hey, other investors or we've seen other land of this size trade between $4,000 and $6,000 an acre in this area. Is that in line with what you're looking for? So immediately we're not committing to what the price is. We're just saying, hey, this is what we've seen happen. And at a minimum, we're going to get either a very negative reaction from them, but not so negative they hang up, because in general, we're not saying we're going to pay that, right? Somebody else is paying that. We're just giving information and just gauging their response. And you'll get some information from that. Another way we do it is, especially in states where the tax assessed value is relatively good, like the states that are on top of it. North Carolina, for example, is a state that generally is on top of the pricing. Some of other states we work in, like Alabama, is not. Usually the tax assessed value is far below what the market value is. So it's hard to use that in a state like Alabama, but we'll say, hey, the tax assessor has your property valued right at about $100,000. Are they way off, or is that kind of what you're looking to get for the property? And again, that will give you some information. They'll respond to that. They'll say, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. A lot of times people are like, oh, they assessed my property way too high. People don't generally say that, but they might think it. And you can tell based on their response, what they really think. And the whole goal, again, is to get them to say their number. And then the last way we do it is logic-based kind of approach, where we say, hey, look, I get it. So you don't want to give your number out. We called you. You want us to give you the offer for your property. But hey, I'm going to go back to my analyst team, and we're going to do some work, a good bit of work, to get you the most money we possibly can for your property. And if we're going to do all that work, like, we want to make sure we're not really far off, because we don't want to waste your time. Like, I don't want to waste your time by scheduling a call back and giving you a low offer that you will never even think about accepting. And so it really helped me to get you the most money I can if you just give a number. It doesn't have to be your lowest number. Just you probably have a number in mind. Just give me something to work with so I can bring it back to the team and we can work to get you as much money as possible. And that logic-based approach works more often than the other two. So but that's harder to do. It's harder to train a cold caller to have that conversation. And so that's our last attempt.
Interesting. And how often are you getting a solid price out of them with that strategy, you think?
Yeah, probably 70% of the time we'll get somebody to say an actual number. And we still will push a lead if we can't get a number out of them, if the rapport was good, if the conversation was good, if we can tell that if it's a really good property that we know we want to buy, and if we can tell they do want to sell, there's interest, they're engaged, they're listening to our questions, they're answering, we'll still push the lead. But we know that in terms of priority, if we have 5 leads pushed in the same hour, 3 of them gave a price, those are the priority leads, right? The ones that don't give a price are a little bit lower priority, and we'll get to those, but maybe not as quickly as the ones who did provide a price.
And so how is the training your cold callers on those 3 questions? How smoothly they maneuver through them, and how often are they nailing those? What's that look like? How do you get that done?
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So when we bring on new cold callers, the first thing they do is they basically spend a week shadowing. And we have a series of training videos we've used. When somebody joins my team, I want them to understand the whole picture. I don't want them to just go, oh, I'm just trying to negotiate this property. I want them to know, hey, when we get a property under contract, what do we do with it? How do we process it through? What does the whole process look like? So they can answer some of the general questions that people have truthfully and be confident about that answer. So that's the first week or so, is shadowing and watching those videos to figure out, how does the business actually work? And then once we say, okay, they've shadowed enough, we just give them a list and we let them get some practice. And then at the end of the day, the cold calling manager will get the new callers in a 30-minute meeting and they'll review calls. They'll talk it over. They'll give them some extra additional strategies to get over the no and ways to communicate with folks. And we have a script, but we always tell them like the script is a crutch. Don't use the script. Do not read from the script. Understand what we're looking for in land, understand what questions to ask. And we have a list of them you can ask and let the conversation lead itself. Don't read from the script. You have to listen to what they're saying. You have to respond to their questions. And then you have to always ask good follow-up questions that get you more information about the property. And we have a weekly training, an hour on Monday mornings, an hour where the whole cold calling team gets in and they do cold calling reviews. And then the cold calling manager, part of her job is to watch like sales videos on YouTube, find other people that are having success and strategies that they use to get through these calls and bring that to the group and give them one thing or two things to work on the whole rest of the week to practice.
And how do you see if they're implementing that?
Yeah, we track the KPIs we track are obviously there's like a baseline daily KPI of how many connected calls do you have and what's your talk time. And so those have to be met. That's how we know they're just doing the work in general. But then the other side of it is the quality side of it. And that we track how many leads they push. Nothing is rewarded based on how many leads they push because that's an easy thing to change. Like they could just push a lead that isn't really a lead. So nothing is rewarded based on that, but we track that number. And then we track how many contracts result from the leads they pushed. So those are the kind of quality things. And then we do call reviews with them.
Yeah.
And whoever is like the two kind of lowest producing for the week, they have a separate meeting with the cold calling manager to review some of their calls separate from everybody else and maybe help them get up to the same level that everybody else is producing at.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a killer setup.